When in 1936 Te Puia first approached the government of the time for funding for the Waka project, they supported her proposal enthusiastically, promising £500 from the Māori Purposes Fund as well as an unlimited supply of timber. In October of that year, Tumanako Katipa, Ropata Wirihana and Rawiri Tamainu led a team of workers into the Oruanui forest on the northwest side of Lake Taupo, and about 6 kilometres from the nearest road. A camp was set up and 3 tōtara felled for the making of the second Waka tauaa. In conditions that were often wet, muddy, cold and extremely uncomfortable, they did the preliminary shaping and hewing of the long central hull and the 2 homi, using axes and adzes. The sections were then allowed to fill with rainwater and left to season. A track had to be cleared through the bush, a major task, and the hull pieces were pulled out by a heavy vehicle, loaded onto a transporter and then a train and taken to Tūrangawaiwai marae, where they were finished off and the carvings made and lashed on. Despite a number of approaches to the government by Te Puia, the promised financial support did not eventuate, and by 1937, when the logs for the third waka were being felled, the project was seriously in need of funds. Te Puia organised fundraising activities such as concerts and raffles, but for the men working on the project, most of whom had families to support and whose wages were lower than those of a relief worker at the time, the situation was extremely demoralising. The apathetic attitude of the general public was also a factor. The tapu of one of the canoe building sites was violated by onlookers and many workers left. In 1939, the government agreed to pay the workers a wage of 19 shillings per week. Soon after this, the outbreak of World War II made additional funding impossible. The fundraising efforts of Te Puia enabled the third waka to be completed. The 2 new Waka tauaa were named Aotea and Takitumu Tuarua. In 1970, Aotea and Takitumu Tuarua were renamed Tumanako and Te Rangatahi respectively.
We came down here to help with the transfer of our wharekai, Kimikimi, and the new building of Kimiora. One of our co-masters from here, he came up to see Uncle Jack Tairi and Uncle Campbell, and Uncle Campbell was the Kāpō clerk, and said that they were short of rowers. Pull all those down, we need you boys to come down and fill up our wakas. We had no idea what was going on. There were 3 kaitakitaki. Kaurau e mohua rātou ingoa tūro, Ricky, Turi, and our uncle. And we didn't even know he was on there, Uncle Rap Waito. So we went down there and they were short on Tumanako. And when we got down there, Turi was taking it. Turi is a big man. Anyway, all the boys, they filled up the waka and we rode up, come down, and I was the baler. And I think I was only about 11, possibly 12. And then you know how you come down, as soon as you get to that point where you see the crowd, he starts doing the tarapiki on our waka and the flat boards, and he starts throwing his tauaa around. I just stopped, looked at him, and I said, oh wow, you know, how can a big man keep his balance and still do what he does and present himself so strong and so fine, and I wouldn't mind being that man one day. But he whakaronoi o tēnei.
I was introduced into the world rowing out at Karapiro back then, and we were only about 18 years old, I think. And then we started coming down to the regatta, and then we'll help them cook, because they would bring a lot of kai from their own whare to help feed the Waka tauaa crew. And so I've been involved ever since then, and so it's been an ongoing yearly thing.
Unbeknown to me, we saw Uncle Rap, and he saw us on Tumanako. He had Te Rangatahi. The year after, he got all us boys to come out to his waka. That's how we started. This is going back in the early 70s. There was no looking back once we got involved with that. It's what we felt, never felt it before in our lives. Didn't really know what the waka tauaa was all about. All we knew is that when you come around that corner, there's a buzz. There's a buzz, and it's sort of, the ihi, the wehi, the wana.